Hello, fellow Spartans. We were asked to create a video about resiliency, our own resiliency. But let me start with cohort 5. Boom, boom. I think to talk about resiliency, first, I think you need to personally define it, right? So to me, resiliency is how someone deals with adversity while they're going through it, and how they thrive afterwards. And so it comes down to me. It comes down to two things. You have the actual adversity, whether it's an injury or an accident or a relationship, a change in life, a job. How you deal with that in the immediate sense when it happens. You fall back on your experience, your character, and we look at how we personally get through it, and others gauge it, and I'll kind of explain that a little bit. But so you have that resiliency is how you adapt to situations that are out of the normal. And then more importantly, resiliency is how you move on, how you build yourself into a stronger person after that experience. And for me, to really oversimplify it, resiliency comes down to choices. It's choices that you have to make as a person. Anything that you experience, you have the choice to either curl up in a ball and protect yourself and hide. And sometimes that's the right answer. And then you have the other choice to face that adversity head on and to move forward in a positive direction. And that's something that when we talk about resilience, that's something that you have to do. It's moving forward into a new normal. Things might be changed forever, but it's all about the choices that you make and how you deal with it. When we're talking about resiliency as well, watching the video with Ryan and Tosh, and there was a lot in there, but Tosh talked a lot about, as human beings, how we measure things. How do you measure resilience? And what I realized when I introspectively thought of that, which I'm doing a lot of in this TMF work, is it's two things, right? It's how others interpret us. I think others see people go through a situation and they have a perception of how resilient we are. And then it's our own perception, right? And I think as human beings, and this whole measuring and gauging things, we're always much harder on ourselves, right? I'm not going to think that I got through an obstacle or a situation hopefully as well as the people around me think I dealt with it, right? If that makes sense. So thinking about all of that and tying this back eventually to my own story, I'd like to tell you a real quick story that kind of exemplifies resilience through a service member that I met a few years ago. His name is Doc Beline. Doc Beline was 19 years old. He was a corpsman supporting Marines in Fallujah, Iraq. I didn't know him at the time, but he's the medic for an infantry platoon. This platoon's rolling through, I think it was Solder City, it doesn't matter. They got ambushed. One of the vehicles got damaged. So Doc, 19 years old again, his job is to run toward the trauma, right? That's what medics do. They don't run away from adversity, they run towards it. That's their job. So Doc gets up, starts treating the patient. They get him on a litter, which is basically a stretcher. 4 other Marines pick this litter up. Doc's treating the patient. A secondary explosion goes off. Now, that explosion was bigger. It ripped the back axle off of one of the vehicles right next to them. That axle shot across the ground and took the legs of every single one of those 5 Marines off. Crazy graphic story, but here's where the resilience comes, right? At 19 years old, Doc Beline, having just lost both of his legs, decided at that point that his job in saving those other Marines' lives was more important than what he was personally physically going through. So Doc crawled over to the other Marines and started administering tourniquets on them. He actually got 2.5 Marines worth of tourniquets on them before he passed out himself and then woke up in Landstuhl, Germany. So that is a heroic and impactful story, and it talks about resilience in the moment, relying on training, relying on character, making a choice to help others. And the bigger part, again, is afterwards. Today, it's been almost 20 years. Doc Beline is an avid forerunner racer, quad racer, lives up in South Dakota with a beautiful young family. And he just picked up the torch and kept going. He didn't let what happened to him, it affected the rest of his life, obviously, physically and emotionally, but he didn't let that change him as a person. He didn't let that stop him. He, more importantly, didn't let his example not be left for others. And I will explain that. One thing I want to say before I talk about my own experience very quickly, because that's uncomfortable, is in watching the podcast with Ryan and Tosh, using the character trait of always learning and always being curious, they talked about a few things, but in brief passing, they talked about this book called Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And I don't know why that stuck out with me. It was mentioned really quickly. But the fact that it sounded old and it was being referenced made me really curious. Again, displaying that character trait, I went and got the book. And lo and behold, as I'm reading through the book, there are passages and quotes that are just popping out to me. And I think one that really, really fits what I try to have as my own perspective is this one. I'll just read it to you real quick, okay? It says, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." Okay? That's about resilience. That's about choices. Okay, my story, and this is pretty simple, right? Everyone knows I was severely injured. I have a really good, powerful story. I was hurt fighting the enemy in Iraq, and I survived, and I was conscious, and my team made it home, and I saw bad things. But personally, I was suddenly faced with a situation that most individuals will never face, and that's just being different, right? I lost my arm. So I realized early on that because of my personality and my character and my service, that I did want to be the example for others. It wasn't just about me or my family. It's about the service member who gets injured like me next month, right? If there's not good examples of positive people moving in positive directions, then what does that person have to look forward to? We need to have that in every aspect of our lives, right? So I made the simple decision early on to be strong and, well, try to. I don't think I'm strong, but try to in very simple little ways. Going to the grocery store. When I go to the grocery store, you can bet that I have everyone's attention. Children react differently, adults react differently, but I get everyone's attention. If I focused on that too much, it might impact what I'm doing. Do I not go to that store because today I don't feel like being stared at? And in truth, I don't notice it. I don't notice it at all. It goes back to a decision I made years ago. I'm not going to let this control me. I am going to move forward, and I'm not going to feel this harm. And that's it. And it makes it easier for me today because I made that decision for myself years ago and said there isn't a going back. You don't have the option of feeling sorry for yourself and just saying, hey, not today. Not just because I don't want to personally, but because I have other people relying on me. So I've taken a really long time to say it, but resiliency is all about choices, and it's about helping those around us and understanding what they're going through. And in many cases, there's no way that what you experience isn't going to change you for the rest of your life. Resilience is what you do with it, and how. There's another sentence here. I promise I'm wrapping it up. But the sentence right after about not being harmed, it says, it can ruin your life only if it ruins your character. How pertinent is that? Your character. It can ruin your life only if it ruins your character. Otherwise, it cannot harm you inside or out. That's a simple statement, but it's very applicable to every situation that I've learned about from my cohort members and the different things they've gone through. And the fact that when I'm hearing their story, I'm thinking, God, I just lost my arm. What would it have been like to lose a son or a husband? Everyone has a different story. And I think that's how we all build each other up, help each other, build strengths, character, and our own resiliency together. So that's it. I think I went a little over time, but I'm not going to edit this, and I got to kind of say everything I wanted to include quotes from this amazing book. And despite my best, perceptions, I am most certainly learning some things. So I appreciate the opportunity, and I hope whoever watches this gets something out of it. Cohort 5 out.